Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yashwendra Singh, Executive Editor of ETCIO, and I welcome you all to this topical discussion on digital transformation. The scale and momentum at which digital transformation efforts have been turned into reality in Indian organizations, especially in the last 1 year, has been a much awaited change in our country. In fact, the only silver lining amidst the dark clouds of the pandemic has been the acceleration of digital transformation among enterprises across verticals. However, companies find themselves at different stages of the digital curve and are being forced to rethink their processes and systems as they adopt and adapt to the new business and technology changes. As they navigate their way through digital transformation, they face multiple challenges. To throw more light on the various aspects of digital transformation and the role that bodies like the Center for Digital Transformation can play in further enabling this movement, we have with us today a senior enterprise technology leader. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jaspreet Bindra. Mr. Bindra, until recently, was the Senior Vice President, Digital Transformation at the $20 billion Mahinda Group of companies. He is currently the founder of Digital Matters, an advisory firm in the area of digital transformation, blockchain, and the future of work. Welcome, Jaspreet.
Thank you very much, Yash. Good to be here.
Okay, great. To start off with, Jaspreet, COVID disrupted many industries globally. What was the nature of challenges and how did technology leaders respond to these challenges? I'm sure you interact with lots of CIOs, CTOs during the course of your work. So how did they overcome or tackle these challenges?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Yash. So, yes, obviously, COVID has been for us perhaps and hopefully a once in a lifetime kind of an event. But I think the misunderstanding sometimes is that it is COVID which disrupted all this regular functioning and all the industry disruptions that we are talking of. It's also a bit of a misconception that people call COVID a black swan, a black swan event, which is as per Talib, an event which is both unpredictable and very disruptive. Very frankly, COVID was not a black swan because it was entirely predictable. Everyone knew that some a global pandemic is going to happen. It's like an earthquake; it's going to happen. Even Bill Gates predicted it 5 years back, etc. So it was disruptive, but not unpredictable. What was disruptive and unpredictable were the lockdowns which COVID pandemic led to. And it is the lockdowns which made all these massive disruptions in our day-to-day functioning, both from a personal as well as from an industry viewpoint. And those were the real black swans or disruptive events in a sense. And the interesting thing is that the next lockdown might not happen because of a pandemic. It could happen for any other reason, any other calamity. And so, therefore, we can be sure that something like this is going to happen again. I think that was the first realization that global CIOs, CTOs, CEOs of companies got, that this is an event, but this is not an event which is a one time, lockdowns or something similar can happen. So how do we tackle this is one question. But the bigger question is, how do we tackle events like this when they happen again and again and again? So this time, very frankly, it was a mixture of just luck, experimentation, and following what others are doing. I think the biggest way that people dealt with this was by two reasons, and I will say those two and stop for any further questions that you might have. But two reasons. One is decentralization. So whatever is centralized can get hit more, and what is decentralized, can you can still withstand such disruptions. So the obvious one is decentralization of work, okay, which is we call work from home or work from anywhere. Basically, instead of working from one place, people were working from multiple places, and people could work from multiple places because of other decentralization happened. Retail firms started decentralizing by e-commerce or omni-channel very quickly. I mean, the work part was supposed to happen in 5 or 6 years. It got fast forwarded to 1 week. Okay. The other decentralization was in food for with delivery, or health with telehealth, or education by teleeducation. So one is decentralization, and the second is obviously digital transformation and digitization. And this event actually separated the wheat from the chaff in a sense. People who had been working on making their business models and processes more and more digital survived this cataclysm far better than people who were not. Companies which were 100% digital, like Zoom or Netflix or whatever, actually gained from this. People who were 100% non-digital, many retailers, etc., collapsed, died forever. And so the second thing that people did to survive and have learned how to survive going forward is to make their business models, their processes, and most importantly, their cultures as digital as possible. Every company cannot be 100% digital, every business model, but as digital as possible. So those are the two ways.
Sure. Great insights there, Jaspreet. I was interacting with the CIO recently, and he said a very interesting thing. He said, the data of all enterprises left the data center, and all the users left the network. So it was a very unprecedented situation for all the technology leaders there. So great. Moving on, Jaspreet, with the vaccination process already kicking across the country, we are hopefully moving to the last phase of this pandemic. Do you think that this momentum of rapid digitization that many companies have acquired is likely to continue, or it may fizzle out as things return back to normal? Because as Satya Nadella famously said that Microsoft has seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in just 2 months. Would this pace continue, or will it be back to the old normal, as I would like to say it, when technology leaders had to really push their top management to undertake digital transformation initiatives? Your thoughts on this?
That's a very good question, Yash, and actually that's true of everything which happened here. So even if you take work from home, for example, okay, since that's the most talked about effect of this disruption, there are two schools of thought. One is that work from anywhere or work from home will continue because people have seen the productivity gains, etc., cost reductions in many cases, uh, and have built up their security and IT systems over the last 7-8 months. Okay, so that it will, and the investments have been made because they had to be made, and so it will continue. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought says we are human beings. We forget very easily, very quickly. Everyone will be back in offices, back in whatever. My view is that it will be neither. Okay, it will be a hybrid or a mix of the two. Now, if one extreme is, in this example, if one extreme is complete work from home, and actually working from anywhere, working from home, I actually is the digital transformation of work. Okay, so if you have work from digitized work or work from home at a complete work from home at one end, and zero work from home at the other, where will these be in the spectrum will frankly depend on the country and the society. And the industry. Okay, and so certain countries, the European ones, the Nordic ones, will be far more towards working from home. So, certain countries will be more this side. Certain industries, the tech ones for obvious reasons, and more digital ones will be towards the work from home. Many companies, as you know, have declared work from home till end of this year or even forever. Okay, and so where will India be? I somehow think that it will be more towards going back to the old normal. Okay, uh, as a society, and very frankly, given our constraints also, okay, it is difficult, and there will be a certain kind of companies, some level, that some of the IT companies, the technology companies, the multinational companies, but those are just the very tip of the pyramid in that sense. The vast part of the country, I mean, you can see it now. Actually, COVID is not over, right, by any stretch of the imagination, but people have kind of quickly moved back. Now, if you come to, therefore, taking that example of digital and digitization, yes, another technology commentator wrote something very important. He said that before COVID, digital was important, but now there'll be just two kinds of companies, the digital and the dying.
Ah,
Okay, so just two. So I think that realization has come a lot to, I think almost 100% of the CEOs for every company of any sector uh, in India and otherwise. I definitely think, and I see as someone who works in digitization, digital transformation, I see more people talking about it, which is fine, which is normal. We'd love to talk. Okay, but importantly, many more wanting to do something about it. And Microsoft, obviously, the big companies have seen how this has happened. You go to the consulting firms, they will tell you the same thing. So therefore, I believe that a certain percentage more will go into action mode. Having said that, finally, I still believe on the remark you said that it will still be a massive push from people inside to make things happen. Uh, that that will not change. That probably requires even more dramatic cataclysms than what we have had so far.
sure, sure. Great thoughts there, Jaspreet. You also spoke about how digital transformation of work would depend from country to country.
Yeah.
Speaking specifically about India, in your opinion, as a country, where do you think India stands in achieving a fully digitized industrial landscape that is globally competitive? Because I was reading a report where, according to there was this publication called the IMD World Digital Competitiveness Ranking 2020. The US obviously and Singapore, they came in first and second, followed by Denmark and Sweden. India currently languishes somewhere in the 40s. Probably it's on 48th position. Your thoughts here?
I'm not surprised that it languishes at the 48th or whatever is the position, because I think sometimes when we sit in this well, we think that many things, good things are happening around. So much is getting digitized. The moment you get out, you realize that, there's a long way to go. Again, I think, the problem is that with a country like India, with just its size, the number of all the countries that you mentioned, if you put together, you would still not reach India. Okay, the Nordics, the US, okay, the couple of other Singapore, whatever. And so with its size, it just becomes impossible to generalize and bucket in one bucket or bucket in one slot. So again, I think I would characterize it in three possible ways. Okay, so one is, I think great levels of digitization have happened in certain parts of the economy, while certain parts are completely languishing. So, for example, if I was to talk about the obvious one, the payments part, okay, digital payments, digital money in that sense, we are actually far more digitized than many other countries, including the developed countries. It's much easier to receive, send money, to do transactions, micro transactions, and with WhatsApp Pay kind of even more friendlier micro transaction things. That part, for example, and that really helps in these closed down kind of situations. On many others, retail, for example, we aren't there. Okay, I mean, yes, sure, there is all this Amazons, etc. But still, it's a very, very small percentage. Britain, where I spend half my time, 40% of retail buying is now online, for example. Okay, after this pandemic, 40% is a huge number. And so, if you take industry by industry, there's certain parts where India is up ahead. So you can't have it one whole. And if it was, for example, the same study was done from the money, payments, banking part of it, the number India would have had probably would have been much higher. The second is, even within India, the urban, rural, and the digital divide. In fact, what is going to happen most in India, Yash, which I fear, is that the digital divide will get even more pronounced. Okay, because you see, earlier on it was people who could access email or not, or will watch a YouTube video or not, or something similar. Now it's whether you can study or not. Okay, you can get educated or not, or whether you can get healthcare or not. Okay, because so much of it has kind of moved, and some of that will remain. So the digital divide will become even more larger because people can't afford connectivity devices, etc. So urban India will gain, rural India will actually go behind. Okay, in this thing, certain more prosperous parts of the country will gain the other. So again, that's the other. And then finally is again the industry. There are certain industries which I think are far ahead, certain industries which are lagging. So net, you can't speak of India as one entity. In this question, you have to kind of parse it and take different aspects of it, and then you'll find different things happening different
Sure,
places.
sure. Great. Moving on, Jaspreet, let's talk specifically about certain technologies. While technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, and 5G have been in the talks for many years now, do you think this is actually the right time for these to get adopted on a massive scale among enterprises in India?
Well, yes and no. Certain technologies will gain, driven by business needs. See, one of the things to remember is that a technology just doesn't get adopted for the heck of it. Okay, a technology gets adopted because there is a certain business need, okay, or a certain consumer need. And so one of the things that has happened along with this pandemic is the fact that customer journeys have irrevocably changed. So our eating out journey, for example, is very different. Our entertainment journey is very different. Our travel journey is very different. It's not that we will stop eating out or traveling, but now we want different. As a consumer, we want it to happen in a different way than what it was. Our hotel journey, we will want smaller, more rather than massive hotels. We might want smaller hotels. We'll feel safer and therefore more Airbnb. So all of these journeys have changed. Now, psychological research says that it takes 21 days to start developing a habit and 66 days for that habit to have formed, okay, on an average. Now, our lockdowns have been far more than these 66 days. Okay, and so new habits have formed. Now, because these new habits have formed, customer journeys, as I said, have changed. Therefore, the customer experience that the customer wants is different. And companies will have to adopt these technologies to very quickly move to this new customer journey or customer experience. Couple of examples. So what I think will, amongst some of these that you mentioned, what I think will one of the industries which will receive a big boost is going to be AR VR, for example. Okay, as retail and entertainment and events as an industry. Okay, very, or even education. Okay, will very quickly, healthcare will want to move to virtual reality, augmented reality, not entirely replace physical stuff, but blend with it. Yeah, and therefore that technology will get a big boost. 5G, yes, because for all this, all these many of the new businesses to work, many of the new devices to work, you will require much faster data rates. And 5G, frankly, is caught in more geopolitical issues rather than technology issues right now. So it's not a technology thing that is happening anyway. It's the geopolitics which is. I think the other one is actually going to be the whole electric and electric EV kind of stuff, because people now realize how big, if this was big, how big global warming can be, and therefore how quickly can we move to try and alleviate that. Finally, data, because as a part of the whole digital transformation process, people will realize they have been sitting on lots and lots of data and doing nothing about it, and so therefore AI, blockchain, I think will still take some time. I don't think there has been any major. Yes, sure, there have been some supply chain related possibilities, and supply chains got disrupted, and so, but all of these which will serve new business needs or new customer journey needs will happen.
What role can bodies like Tata Communications and CII's, CDT, the Center for Digital Transformation, and its partners play in enabling organizations to adopt digital technologies and transform themselves? Because you work closely with the CDT, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. So, all the questions you asked me, and what a lot of my answers were It will depend on the industry. It will depend, on which part of the industry it is, etc. A huge, massive, biggest possibly part of that industry, which we very rarely talk about when we talk about digital transformation, digitization, is actually the MSMEs. They are the bulk really of this country and many other countries, right? And they're the ones which frankly drive the economy. The big guys don't drive the economy. Uh, uh, Secondly, they're the ones which give jobs. This is where the jobs are. And not many bodies focus on MSMEs. I think where organizations like CDT with CII, Tata Communications, and the partners that you said are doing a good job is their laser focus on this segment, okay, and making this segment adopt technology is much more difficult. Most of the solutions technology providers are focused on the larger enterprises. These guys are far more price sensitive. Their needs are different, and so providing facilities for them, knowledge to them, the right kind of solutions for them, the right kind of partners who can help them, tech partners, etc., who can help them, is I think a great job that these bodies can do. You must remember that perhaps the slice of the industry or economy which got hit most during this pandemic has been the MSME segment. It's bloodbath, the Darwinian moment for many of them. Okay, and uh, now is the right time for bodies like this to come in, and all of them want to change because they want to avoid. They have the same mentality. They want to avoid the next big one. This is where the bodies like CDT etc. can help.
Sure. So can you throw some light on the initiatives of the center that we can look forward to, for MSMEs as we adapt and adopt the new normal?
Yes, you're right. I do work with them, and there are multiple initiatives that CDT is coming out with. If I was to pick out two or three, which I think are the most interesting and could be the most impactful, uh, you know, a key one is a focus on capacity building through skills and training programs. Focused on MSMEs very critically. There's a lot of stuff for the other companies, but when it comes focus on CDT is creating a kind of a knowledge repository, okay, of different possibilities, technologies, case studies which have other MSMEs have adopted, etc. Again, something which is lacking today because you'll always find, oh, Nike did this and Mahinda did that, and whatever, but it isn't really relevant to an MSME. So I think that's number one. From a technology viewpoint, I think what CDT is focusing on a lot, and rightly so, is cybersecurity. And that is a subject that they're going to keep in priority. And I'm given to understand that there will be a lot of webinars, training sessions, special arrangements with cybersecurity vendors, etc. Because as this world gets more distributed or decentralized, as we said, a big threat is cybersecurity. And again, the big guys will take care of themselves on that, okay, by investing, by whatever. But it's not going to happen for the smaller guys. Third and final, which I think I am most excited by, is a kind of a platform or a framework which CDT is setting up called DXCEL, okay, which is like think of it like a two-sided platform, and it has people who want digital expertise on one side and people who can provide digital expertise on the other side, largely focused towards MSMEs. And so, if you have this kind of a curated platform with CII's CDT coming in and doing the right quality checks and the right reputation checks, etc., it will. And if this works out, I think this could become very, very large and a huge resource for MSMEs. These are the two or three I would like to highlight. Yash.
Sure, great. Well, that's all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen. To sum up the discussion, the future may look different, but it is not hard for organizations if they transform their business operations swiftly. Technology can be a boon to society if businesses prepare beforehand for the future and adapt accordingly. With the right steps and actions, organizations can take this crisis as an opportunity to build for the future. With this, we would like to bring the session to a close. Thanks a lot, Jaspreet, for those wonderful insights. Thanks, viewers, for sparing time to watch this session. Thanks once again. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you.